Hi there. We're going to be discussing the sixth string notes as well as the sixth string bar chords. The first thing we need to do in order to do this is we need to discuss the notes on the sixth string. And in order to do that, we need to understand what's referred to as the chromatic scale. Now, the chromatic scale has a total of 12 pitches. And the easiest way to think about the chromatic scale is to think of it as A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. In music, there's no H or I or J or anything like that. It just goes A through G, and then it starts all over on A again, which is called an octave. Now, that octave, it just continues on to the next A and the next A and the next A and so on. It wouldn't matter if you started on C and went to the next C or G and went to the next G. It just gets repeated in octaves over and over. That's what it does. Now, in the chromatic scale, we have a total of 12 pitches. A through G only gives you 7 different notes. So if you think about a piano, if you visualize a piano, that would be the white notes on the piano would be A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. The black notes on the piano are what we refer to as sharps or flats, or another term we use is called accidentals. Now what I want to do is kind of lay this out in a different way of visualizing this so it's easier for you to think about. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to think about everything in terms of sharps. We're not going to talk about it in flats right now. We're just going to talk about it as sharps. So our notes would be A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, which is 7 notes. If we took all those notes and we gave all those notes a sharp, so A would get a sharp, which is A sharp, of course, C would get a sharp, which is C sharp, and so on, you would wind up with a total of 14 notes because you'd have 7 white and 7 black notes. But of course we only have 12. So the 2 notes that don't get sharps are B and E, which spells the word B, of course. So what you need to remember is the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Everybody gets a sharp except for B and E. If you said B sharp, what you're really saying is C. Okay? So what we want to do is focus on the sixth string then and try and learn those notes. When I used to teach this, I used to tell students that, of course, when you pluck the sixth string, the note is E. And then this would be F, because that's the next note in the sequence. There's no E sharp, remember, so this note is F. F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then back to E. When you get to the one with the 2 dots, you've gone 1 octave. You started on E open, and you ended on E at the 12th fret, and that's 1 octave. So that means 0 and 12 are the same thing for a guitar player, which means 1 and 13 are the same, 2 and 14 are the same, 3 and 15 are the same, and so on. So your guitar really is only 12 frets long. That's what you have to learn in the first sequence. Now again, when I used to teach this to people, I would teach them that, and then I would tell them to go home and memorize it. The problem was they would come back, and then I would say, for instance, well, find B for me. And what they would do is they would count up to find B, or I'd say find D, and so they'd count up to find D. That's not what we want. What we want is to be able to know exactly where the note is. So if somebody says G, you know where it is. If somebody says B, you know where it is. So what I did was I started teaching people, instead of doing it that way, we started using the odd numbers of your fretboard, which are the ones with the dots. Okay? Now some of you might have a dot at the first fret, some of you don't. I do not. I've got a dot at 3, 5, 7, and 9. Okay, if you have a classical guitar, for instance, you may have a guitar that doesn't have any dots on it. And I do sometimes suggest to students, after you've okayed it with your parents or whatever, that you can draw little dots on the top on 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 using like one of those silver Sharpies or things like that so you can see it. And that way you can see the same thing that we all see up here to make it easier to visualize. You don't have to. You can certainly do it without the dots too. But it seems like it makes it easier for a lot of students. So you have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That's what we're trying to focus on. 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So here's how this is going to work. When you pluck the sixth string, the note you hear is E. So if you go to the first fret, we now know that that note is F. It's not E sharp because there is no such thing as E sharp. If there was, this would be it, but there's not. So this note here is F. So the 3rd fret then is G. The 5th fret is A. The 7th fret is B. Now here's where the tricky part comes in. The 9th fret actually isn't what we want. We want 8 and 10, which surrounds this dot, 8 and 10. So here's what happens. Watch this. So I have E, F, G, A, B, C, and D surround that dot. So I don't actually want the dot. I want to see the things around the dot. F, G, A, B, C, and D. F, G, A, B, C, and D. Okay, so that's how you learn the notes on your sixth string. Okay, what I'll do is I'll do another video in just a little bit that describes the bar chords on the sixth string as well. But the first thing I need you to do is start figuring out these notes on the sixth string. Okay? Thank you.